The first time Detective Amara Okonkwo saw the photograph, she knew something was deeply wrong. She'd been staring at it for what felt like hours, the glossy print cool under her fingertips despite the humid Lagos air. The woman in the wedding picture, radiant in her white gown, wore a smile that just didn't reach her eyes. It was a smile Amara had seen far too many times in her 15 years working homicide. A smile that screamed for help without making a sound. But this case wasn't going to be another chaotic city investigation. This would take her far from the familiar streets of Lagos, deep into the quiet, rolling hills of Enugu State. A place where the stillness was deceptive, where the silence itself could become a weapon. It all started in March 2019. Chief Emeka Nwosu, a powerful 62-year-old businessman, had been missing for 3 long days. His body was finally found by his old groundskeeper, Papa Chidi, during the morning fish feeding, floating in the tranquil fish pond behind his sprawling country estate. What struck the local police as odd wasn't just the death of a prominent figure. It was the look of absolute, bone-chilling terror frozen on the chief's face, an expression that suggested he had seen something unimaginable in his final moments. But that wasn't the only mystery. His young wife, the beautiful 28-year-old Grace, the same woman from the wedding photo, had vanished without a trace. The local authorities were stumped. They saw a straightforward case: a young wife, a wealthy older husband, a sudden disappearance. To them, Grace was the prime suspect, likely on the run with the chief's money. But Detective Okonkwo saw something else. She saw the ghost of that smile, the hollow look in Grace's eyes, and she knew the truth was buried much deeper than a simple fish pond. Amara packed her bags. The chief's family had connections, and they wanted answers, not assumptions. They wanted the best, and the best was Amara Okonkwo. As she boarded the flight to Enugu, she clutched the photograph. Was Grace a cold-blooded killer, or was she another victim, silenced by the very secrets she was trying to escape? The quiet hills of Enugu held the answer, and Amara was determined to make them talk. Thanks for watching. If you're intrigued by Detective Okonkwo's investigation, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more chapters of this unfolding mystery. See you next time. Chief Emeka was a true titan, a man who had built a fortune from the ground up in the textile industry. He was a pillar of his community, respected by everyone. After years of hard work, he returned to his ancestral village, ready to enjoy the fruits of his labor in his golden years. But wealth couldn't fill the void left by his first wife, who had passed away from cancer 10 years prior. His life, despite the luxury and status, was a lonely one. His children were scattered across the globe, living their own lives in Europe and America, and visits were rare. At family gatherings, the whispers were constant. The chief needs someone, his relatives would say. A companion to care for him in his old age. It was a sentiment he secretly agreed with. Then, one day at a church function in Abuja, he met her. Her name was Grace Mambi. She was like a breath of fresh air, everything he thought he had been searching for. She was quiet, deeply respectful, and her modest dress spoke of a woman who embraced traditional values. Grace didn't share much about her past. She told him she was an orphan raised by distant relatives in Cross River State. She worked a humble job as a receptionist at a small hotel, just scraping by. When the chief, a man of immense power and wealth, showed interest, she seemed genuinely grateful, almost as if he were rescuing her. Their courtship was a whirlwind. In just 3 months, they were married. It was a small ceremony, one his children couldn't attend or perhaps chose not to. His daughter, Chidinma, had called from London, her voice laced with concern. "Papa, you barely know this woman. Why are you rushing into this?" she'd pleaded. But the chief was deaf to her worries. He was captivated. Grace had reawakened a part of him he thought was long gone, the instinct to protect, to provide. She was the perfect wife in his eyes, submissive, traditional, a stark contrast to the modern, outspoken women his sons had married. He felt like a king again, with a devoted queen by his side. Grace moved into his mansion, and her quiet presence filled the large, empty rooms. She catered to his every need, her days revolving around his comfort. She managed the household staff with a soft but firm hand and seemed content to live in his shadow. The chief was blissfully happy. He showered her with gift cards, jewelry, a generous allowance. He saw it as his duty, his pleasure. He felt alive, revitalized. For the first time in a decade, his house felt like a home. His friends saw the change in him, the new sparkle in his eyes, and they congratulated him on finding happiness again. But Chudinwa's words echoed in the back of his mind, a faint, nagging doubt he tried to ignore. His daughter was a sharp lawyer, not one for baseless fears. "Papa, did you do any background checks? Did you even see a birth certificate?" she had asked. He brushed it off. "She's an orphan, Chudinma. What's there to check?" "I trust my judgment." He had built an empire on his instincts, and his instincts told him Grace was genuine. He had transferred significant assets into a joint account, a gesture of his complete trust and commitment. He had even begun the process of adding her to his will, wanting to ensure she would be secure for the rest of her life, even after he was gone. He believed he was cementing their future, a future built on love and tradition. He was providing for the woman who had brought light back into his life. What Chief Emeka didn't know, what he couldn't possibly imagine, was that his instincts had finally failed him. The quiet, respectful woman who shared his bed, who managed his home, who was poised to inherit a piece of his legacy, was a complete fabrication. Grace Namdi wasn't even her real name. Detective Amara arrived in Enugu on a humid Thursday morning, 3 days after the body was discovered. Local police had handled the initial investigation but called in Lagos said when the victim's wife's background check came back, strange. The woman who'd married Chief Emeka Nwosu, a woman named Grace, had provided documents that were expertly forged to expertly. She was a ghost, the local inspector Chukwudi Ez told Amara as they drove up the winding road to the chief's estate, the church where she claimed to attend. No record of her, the hotel where she supposedly worked. They remember someone matching her description, but she used a different name, Maida Okeke, and the relatives in Cross River. They don't exist. The estate itself was magnificent sprawling gardens, a main house with marble floors, and the infamous fish pond where the chief had met his end. Amara walked the grounds, her eyes scanning every detail. The pond was large, stocked with expensive koi fish that the chief had imported from Japan. It was surrounded by smooth stones and ornamental plants. Nothing suggested a struggle. Everything was too perfect, too serene. Papa Chidi, the groundskeeper, was a weathered man in his 70s who had worked for the Nwosu family for 30 years. He sat on a wooden stool near the servant quarters, his hands trembling as he recounted finding the body. "Madam Grace, she was different after the wedding," he said in Igbo, which Amara understood perfectly. His voice was low, filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. "At first, she was kind, always greeting me properly. But after 3-4 months, I saw changes. She would stand by the window at night, just watching. Sometimes I heard her on the phone, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Not Igbo, not Yoruba, not Hausa. Something else." Amara leaned in, sensing they were getting somewhere. "What about the night the chief disappeared?" she asked, Papa Chidi's eyes filled with tears. "They had an argument. I heard shouting from the main house. The chief, he sounded afraid. I'd never heard him sound afraid before. Then silence, complete silence. In the morning, Madam Grace came to me and said the chief had traveled to Abuja for business. But his car was still there. His driver knew nothing about any trip." Amara nodded slowly. "The wife disappears, the husband is found dead, and the staff heard a fearful argument. It seemed straightforward, but the forged documents and the strange language suggested something deeper, something far more complex than a simple domestic dispute." Amara thanked Papa Chidi and walked back toward the main house. Inspector Ez was waiting for her on the veranda, holding a small plastic evidence bag. Inside was a single, intricately carved wooden bead found near the pond. "We found this clutched in the chief's hand," he said. Amara took the bag, examining the bead closely. The design was unfamiliar, a complex spiral pattern she'd never seen before. "This isn't local," she murmured. "It's not Nigerian." Just then, a sleek black car pulled up the driveway. A woman in a sharp business suit stepped out, her face a mask of controlled grief. "I'm Adana Nwosu," she announced, her voice firm. "The chief's daughter from his first marriage. I heard what happened. And I know who Grace really is." All eyes turned to her. The air grew thick with anticipation. "She's not just some ghost with a fake name," Adana continued, her eyes locking with Amara's. "Her real name is Nkechi, and she is the sole survivor of the Okoro family, the family my father destroyed to acquire this land." A collective gasp went through the small group of officers. The case had just cracked wide open. Grace wasn't a gold digger. She was an avenger. Amara looked from the carved bead in her hand to the determined face of Adana Nwosu. The mystery of the chief's death was far from over. In fact, it had just begun. The ghost had a name, and now she had a motive. The hunt was on. This story is just getting started. If you want to know what happens next in the search for Nkechi and the truth behind the Okoro family's fate, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss part 2. Thanks for watching. Back at the police station, Amara spread out everything she had on the woman known as Grace Namdi. The perfect wedding photos, the meticulously forged documents, and statements from confused neighbors and staff. This woman was a ghost, and Amara needed to find her. She picked up the phone and called her trusted partner in Lagos, Inspector Tund Bakari. Tund was a wizard with databases, a digital bloodhound. "Tund, I need you to run this photo through everything," Amara said, her voice firm. "Missing persons, wanted lists, immigration records. Check with Interpol too, this level of identity fabrication." She's a professional. She's done this before. While Tund dug into the digital world, Amara turned to the human element. She set up a video call with the chief's children, Chidinma and Ifeanyi. Chidinma, the daughter, looked heartbroken but resigned. "We tried to warn him," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "When we finally met Grace at the wedding, she was just perfect to perfect." She knew exactly what to say, how to act. It felt like watching a performance, not meeting our new stepmother. Then Ifeanyi, the son, added a chilling detail that made the hair on Amara's arms stand up. "2 weeks before Papa died, he called me late at night. He was whispering, terrified someone would overhear him. He said he'd found something in Grace's belongings. It was a collection of photographs of other men, all of them wealthy, all of them elderly. He told me he was going to confront her the next day." That was the last time I ever spoke to him. Amara felt a cold dread wash over her. This wasn't just a one-off murder for inheritance. This was a pattern. She was hunting a serial killer. The call from Tund came at 2 in the morning. His voice was tight with urgency. "Amara, you need to see this." He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I got a hit, a big one, from South Africa. Your Grace Namdi is actually Thandi Moyo. She's wanted in Johannesburg for the suspected murder of a 65-year-old businessman named Willem van der Merwe back in 2016. And that's not all. There are possible connections to 3 other suspicious deaths across southern Africa. The victims, all wealthy, older men, and all of them were married to young, beautiful women who vanished without a trace after they died." Amara sat bolt upright in her hotel bed, sleep completely forgotten. "Send me everything," she commanded. Now, the files Tund sent painted a terrifying portrait of a predator who had been honing her craft for years. They called her the Black Widow of Africa. Thandi Moyo was born in Zimbabwe in 1991. She had been a promising pharmacy student until her life was shattered by political violence that killed her entire family in 2013. After that, she vanished. A year later, She resurfaced in Botswana using a new name, working as a caregiver for an elderly diamond merchant. 6 months after they married, he died of a supposed heart attack. His young widow inherited a fortune and disappeared. The pattern repeated in Mozambique in 2015. Another wealthy man, another sudden death, another vanishing bride. Then came South Africa, where Willem Vandermeer's death finally raised enough red flags to trigger a full-scale investigation. But by then, Thandith was long gone. Tund explained her method during their morning call. She targets wealthy, lonely men in their 60s, finds them at churches, charity galas, business conferences. She studies them, learns their desires, and transforms herself into their perfect woman. Then, she waits. Sometimes she poisons them slowly, using toxins that are nearly impossible to detect after embalming. Other times, she manipulates them into changing their wills before staging an accident. But Chief Ojo drowned, Amara pointed out. That's messy. It's not subtle. Maybe something went wrong this time, Tun suggested. Maybe he found out who she really was. Amara's mind raced back to Ifeani's story, the chief's fearful whisper on the phone, the discovery of the photographs. He was onto her. He was going to confront her. She knew, Amara said, the pieces clicking into place. She knew he was onto her, so she had to act fast. The drowning wasn't a mistake. It was an act of desperation. The hunt for Thandith Moyo, the Black Widow, was on. And Amara knew this ghost had just become a cornered animal, which made her more dangerous than ever. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by true crime stories and want to see how this case unfolds, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next part of the investigation. For 3 long weeks, Amara chased shadows across Nigeria. Every lead seemed to evaporate into thin air. A supposed sighting in Port Harcourt, just a case of mistaken identity. A tip-off about a suspicious woman in Benin City. Another dead end, but Amara was nothing if not patient. Her grandmother, a respected healer back in their village, had taught her that patience is a weapon. The most dangerous predators don't rush. They wait, they watch, and they strike only when their prey feels safest. Amara immersed herself in Thandith's world, spending countless hours studying her patterns, trying to decode her twisted logic. This wasn't just about money, it was deeper, more personal. Thandith was a ghost haunted by unspeakable trauma. Her entire family had been brutally slaughtered for political reasons. That kind of pain doesn't just heal, it festers, it warps. Her grief had twisted into something predatory, a dark force driving her. Was she targeting men who reminded her of her father? Was she waging a symbolic war against the patriarchy itself? Or had she simply learned a brutal lesson that in a world that had shown her no mercy, survival required becoming ruthless herself? Understanding her psychology wasn't about excusing the murders. It was about predicting them. It was the key to getting one step ahead. During a tense strategy meeting, Amara laid out her theory. She's going to strike again, she stated, her voice firm. She's running out of money and she needs it to stay hidden. Another mark is inevitable. We need to watch the places where she hunts: churches, charity events, anywhere wealthy, older men gather. Inspector Chukudi, a seasoned local officer, had been working his own angle. I'm on it, he confirmed. I've alerted every high-end matchmaking service, every church with a wealthy congregation, and every exclusive social club from the South to the Southeast. If she even thinks about showing her face, we'll get a flag. The break they were waiting for finally came on a rainy Tuesday evening. The phone rang, and on the other end was a pastor from UO. He was calling about a woman who matched Thandith's description. She had attended a business fellowship meeting, introducing herself as Blessing, a young widow hoping for a fresh start. She had spent the entire evening talking to a 72-year-old retired judge, himself recently widowed. They had connected, talking for hours. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. Do we have eyes on her right now? She demanded. The fellowship ended about an hour ago, the pastor replied. But the judge's driver told me his boss invited her to lunch tomorrow. At the Le Méridien Hotel, the trap was set, but Amara knew they had to be flawless. Sandy was a phantom, and one wrong move would make her disappear again, perhaps for good. They meticulously planned the operation. Plainclothes officers would blend in as hotel staff and guests. Surveillance teams would occupy adjacent rooms, and armed backup would be stationed outside. The plan was to let the lunch play out, let Sandy feel secure, let her think she was in control. They would wait for her to leave the restaurant, and then, when she least expected it, they would finally close the net. The hunt was almost over. Thank you so much for watching. If you are on the edge of your seat, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories. We'll see you in the next one. The next day, Amara was back on the job, sitting in a quiet corner of the Le Méridien restaurant. She was dressed like a businesswoman, just another professional having lunch alone. 3 tables away, her target, the retired judge, Justice Akpan, was laughing at something Sandy said. Sandy herself looked completely harmless. She wore a simple dress, just a little makeup, her hair partially covered by a headscarf. She seemed so innocent, almost angelic. If you didn't know the truth, you'd never guess this soft-spoken woman had killed at least 5 men across the continent. Suddenly, a voice crackled in Amara's earpiece. It was Tund, from the surveillance van parked outside. She's clean so far, no suspicious movements. But Celine Dubois's phone just pinged a tower 3 kilometers away. The accomplice is close. Amara felt her muscles tense up. This operation was getting bigger and more dangerous than they had initially anticipated. The lunch continued without a hitch. Justice Akpan was completely charmed by Sandy. He was promising to show her his private art collection, complaining about how lonely he was in his huge compound. Sandy played her part flawlessly. She acted grateful, modest, and hung on his every single word. When the check arrived, the judge insisted on paying. As they stood up to leave, Amara whispered into her mic, "All units, prepare to move." But then, Sandy did something totally unexpected. As they walked toward the exit, she leaned in and whispered something to the judge. His face went completely pale. He pulled back, a look of confusion and fear spreading across his features. In that single moment, Sandy's mask slipped. Her gentle expression vanished, replaced by something cold and predatory. She knew she was being watched. What happened next unfolded in just a few seconds. Sandy grabbed the judge's arm and pulled a small object from her purse with a syringe. "Everyone stay back," she yelled. Her voice was completely different now, stripped of all its earlier softness. "I'll kill him right here." Amara stood up slowly, making sure her hands were visible. Sandy Moyle, "It's over." "Let him go." Sandy's eyes locked onto Amara, and a flash of recognition crossed her face. She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "So you know my name, but do you know my story? Do you have any idea what men like him do to people like me?" Amara tried to reason with her. "I know about your family. I know about the trauma you went through, but these men didn't kill your family. They aren't the ones who hurt you." Sandy's voice cracked with emotion. "They're all the same. Taking, using, thinking their money makes them good people. I saw the photos in Chief Amicus studying with politicians, with generals. Men who destroyed my country while they got rich. They all deserve what they get." The judge was trembling in her grip. Amara saw the syringe getting closer to his neck. One push, and whatever was inside would be in his bloodstream. Given Sandy's background in pharmaceuticals, it was almost certainly lethal. "You're right," Amara said, taking a slow, careful step forward. "The world has been unfair to you. Unbearably unfair. But this, killing innocent people. Your family wouldn't want this. Your father wouldn't want this." Tears started streaming down Sandy's face. For just a second, the hard exterior cracked, revealing the broken young woman underneath. "You don't know what my father would want. You don't know what it's like to have everything stolen from you. You're right," Amara replied gently. "I don't, but I know that you survived. Against impossible odds, you survived. That strength could help so many people. Don't throw it away like this." The entire restaurant had gone completely silent. Amara could hear her own heart pounding in her chest. One wrong word, and Justice Akpan would die. Then, from behind Thandiev, a new voice spoke, this time in Shona, her native language, Monisakana Wangyu. "My daughter." It was one of Amara's officers, a Zimbabwean woman who had just joined the team. She continued speaking in Shona, her voice soft, reminding Thandiev of home, of the person she was before all the darkness took over. Something inside Thandiev broke. Her hand began to tremble. The syringe fell from her grasp and clattered onto the floor. She let go of the judge and collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Amara moved in fast, securing the syringe and restraining Thandiev just as the rest of her team rushed into the restaurant. The standoff was over. Thanks for watching this thrilling takedown. If you want more stories of justice and suspense, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.
The final chapter of Thandie Moyo's reign of terror began with her extradition to South Africa. Her accomplice, Celine Dubois, was captured in a desperate attempt to cross into Chad. The full scope of their crimes was chilling: 7 confirmed victims, with possibly 3 more unaccounted for. Justice Akpan, a survivor, remained shaken but profoundly grateful to be alive. The weapon of choice was diabolical, a syringe filled with a concentrated potassium solution. It was a heart attack in a needle, a method Thandie had perfected through her pharmaceutical training. Making it nearly impossible to detect post-mortem, she had used it for years. A ghost leaving no trace. But Chief Emeka's death was different. It wasn't clean. It wasn't silent. In her confession, Thandie revealed the horrifying details. He had found her collection of photos, evidence of her past life and crimes, and confronted her. Panic set in. She drugged his evening tea. And as his body grew heavy and his mind clouded, she dragged him to the edge of the fishpond. She held his head beneath the water, watching the life drain from him, his pleas for mercy turning into gurgling silence. The terror in his eyes, she confessed, had haunted her ever since. That same night, she fled. Armed with money she had carefully siphoned into offshore accounts, her plan was to vanish into Central Africa, a phantom once more. But her partner, Celine, convinced her to go for one last score, one final lucrative act before disappearing. It was this greed, this insatiable need for more, that ultimately led to their capture. The chain of predation was finally broken. The trial was a spectacle of human tragedy. Psychologists spoke of complex trauma, weaving a narrative of how violence often begets more violence. Thandie's defense team argued for leniency, painting her as a victim of her own horrific past, but the prosecution brought forth the faces of the bereaved families, the cold, calculated nature of her crimes, and the predatory precision that defined her actions in the end. Justice prevailed. Thandie Moyo received multiple life sentences. The brilliant mind that could have saved lives would now spend the rest of its days confined, a testament to its destructive power. 6 months later, Detective Amara returned to the chief's estate for the last time, the once vibrant Homeveld hollow awaiting its sale by the chief's children. Papa Chidi, the faithful groundskeeper, was still there tending to the gardens. The infamous fishpond had been drained, its prized koi relocated, and new grass was already reclaiming the stone-lined banks as they sat in the quiet garden. Papa Chidi asked the question that lingered in the air, "Do you think she was evil?" Amara paused, reflecting on the months she had spent dissecting Thandie's life, her psychology, her motivations, her crimes. "I think she was broken. Amara replied softly. Trauma broke her, and instead of finding a way to heal, she let that brokenness twist her into something monstrous. Evil is too simple a word. She made choices, terrible choices, but they came from a place of profound pain. And the chief? Papa Chidi asked. He was a lonely man who just wanted to be loved. That isn't a crime. He never deserved what happened to him. Driving away from the estate, Amara's thoughts swirled. She thought of all the victims, not just the men who lost their lives, but Fanding herself. Destroyed by violence long before she ever took a life, she contemplated the endless cycles of trauma and retribution that plague so many communities, so many nations. Justice had been served in a courtroom, but the deeper wounds in society remained. That night, Amara called her grandmother. Mama, she said, her voice filled with a familiar weariness. Tell me the story again, the one about the woman who chose healing over revenge. As her grandmother's wise, gentle voice filled the line with ancient wisdom, Amara remembered why she did this work. It wasn't for vengeance or punishment. It was for the hope that one day enough people would choose the difficult path of healing. The hope that one day the cycle would finally break. But until that day comes, she knew her purpose. She would continue to investigate, to pursue justice, to stand as a barrier between the predators and their prey, because in a world where trauma can create monsters, someone has to hold on to the belief that redemption is still possible, even if, for some, it comes far too late. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the complexities of justice.